Today's book is The Magical Garden. There once was a pretty little girl named Eva. She had a cute grey squirrel with a bushy tail for a pet. The squirrel loved to eat chestnuts, so Eva called him Chestnut. Eva's favourite pastime was to play with the squirrel in the park. One spring evening, Eva took Chestnut to the park to play with as usual. The spring breeze was making the bright green leaves in the trees sway, and the birds were chirping merrily and making sweet sounds. Eva and Chestnut were playing hide and seek. The squirrel went to hide inside a hollow opening in a tree when Eva closed her eyes. Eva began to look for her playmate but could not find him anywhere. She searched for Chestnut for a long time. The park became quiet as the sun began to set, but Eva was determined to find her bushy friend Chestnut. She wandered about in the park, searching for her pet. While wandering around the park, Eva happened to see a large, old, hollow oak tree. Seeing the tree, she wondered if Chestnut could be hiding inside it. As she curiously peered into the darkness, she discovered a secret passage. She went through the passage, looking for Chestnut. The mysterious passage led Eva to a very beautiful place filled with countless flowers in bloom and colourful butterflies fluttering about everywhere. A gentle breeze carried the sweet fragrance of the flowers. Little Eva could also hear the sweet song of the birds in the mysterious place. She was entranced by the beauty of the magical land. Suddenly she saw little Chestnut running towards her. The squirrel climbed on her shoulders and pranced about on her head. Eva was delighted to see her best friend. Chestnut told her how he had come to hide in the hollow of the oak tree and had come to find the magical garden. Eva was taken aback to hear Chestnut speak. Chestnut led her on to walk about the magical garden. Eva was amazed to see a group of butterfly fairies playing around a clear and transparent crystal fountain. The silvery water of the beautiful crystal fountain sparkled in the bright moonlight. In the clear and white moonlight, Eva watched wonderstruck as the fairies played with rainbow-coloured water bubbles. She figured out that the fairies were playing a secret game, and her curiosity led her closer to the fairies. She asked them, "What are you playing?" The fairies giggled playfully and sprinkled magic water on Eva. She began to shrink in size until she was as tiny as the fairies. The fairies grouped around Eva with bright smiling faces and pleasing smell of exotic perfumes about them. They asked Eva who she was and where she had come from. Eva was feeling a little sheepish and heady from the events of the past few minutes. She looked at the fairies dreamily and told them how she had reached there through the trunk of the hollow oak tree. "Welcome to Venetia," the fairies cooed to her. They led Eva and Chestnut on to a magical tour of Venetia. Eva was amazed to see many magical creatures that dwelt in that wondrous place. The lissom fairies and busy butterflies, the singing birds and dancing bees, prancing crickets and magical rabbits that disappeared into hats and came out of cheering squirrels' ears, entertained Eva and Chestnut. They danced, sang and shouted their greetings to the lucky duo. Eva was amazed that every creature in Venetia could speak just like humans. The bees filled honey inside a tender buttercup flower, and a bunch of butterflies grabbed the flower with their dainty legs and flew to Eva. She held out both her hands and watched in amazement as the butterflies carefully placed the flower in the middle of her palms. But they could not stop, a little drop falling onto little Chestnut's nose, who was playfully prancing about with his new friends. The rabbits pulled out delicious nuts one by one from inside their hats and laughed wildly as they aimed the nuts at Eva and Chestnut. Eva caught one of the nuts and threw them back at a rabbit who scurried away, still laughing wildly. Eva was greatly pleased to be in the magical garden of Venetia and smiled and laughed with everyone. Her magical friends told Eva that Venetia had a queen, the kind and caring enchantress Vanessa. The fairies whispered in her ears that that was not all. There was a dark secret to the magical land. There was an evil bat king called Darkwing who wanted to rule Venetia. Eva became thoughtful about how every place had its own charms and hidden threats. That day was a special day in Venetia, the festival day. Queen Vanessa had invited all her subjects to the Flower Palace to celebrate the special occasion. Eva curiously asked what the special occasion was. The fairies replied that it was the day of the full moon festival in Venetia, a festival that was celebrated by the residents of Venetia to honour the magical powers of the moon. Eva was pleasantly surprised to hear of the festival and was restless to attend the celebrations. Suddenly the fairies surrounded Eva and said, "Come now, and let us get you ready for the celebrations. Then you will be finely dressed to be introduced to the enchantress." From thin air the fairies pulled out a fabric of butterfly silk. Eva watched in wonder as the fairies snipped and cut and stitched a fine dress of butterfly silk in no time. Soon Eva found herself disrobed as the fairies put the new dress on her. Some other fairies had meanwhile woven a garland of fragrant flowers that they flung around Eva's neck. Eva was looking just as pretty as the fairies. She was overjoyed to attend the wonderful fairy festival in her new dress. The fairies led Eva and Chestnut, who was also sprinkled with a sweet floral perfume for the occasion, onto a beautiful garden. Eva had never seen a lovelier garden. The flowers in that garden were even more beautiful, and the butterflies that fluttered about were bigger and brighter. The fairies pointed to a gorgeous flower with a magical halo. "Oh, what a wonderful flower!" gasped Eva. A big dewdrop shone like a diamond in the middle of the unique flower. "This flower is so lovely. I have never seen anything like this before," Eva said to the fairies. "This flower holds the soul of Venetia," the fairies told Eva and Chestnut. "It lights up our fairyland with magical vibes and safeguards our lives." Eva and Chestnut were amazed to hear about the magical qualities of the exotic flower and glimpsed at each other in amazement, shaking their heads in disbelief. The fairies then led Eva and Chestnut to the Palace of Flowers, where the enchantress Vanessa ruled the magical land of Venetia from. The flower palace sported magnificent flowers as adornment, and it was brightly lit by fireflies that busily wove patterns of bright lights across the facade of the palace. The enchantress suddenly appeared out of nowhere and smiled mysteriously at little Eva and her companions. She was wearing a dress made of butterfly silk that was more beautiful than any other dress that evening. She spoke to Eva in a honeyed, musical voice. "Dear Eva, come with us and enjoy the full moon festival." Eva was taken aback by the beauty of the enchantress, but she remembered her manners just in time to thank the Queen of Venetia before she looked away. She then joined the group of fairies to enjoy the merriments of the evening. As the celebrations unfolded on one hand, a sinister plot was unfolding on the other. Darkwing, the evil Bat King, had decided to steal the magic flower that evening. On hearing that the fairies were busy celebrating the full moon festival, he sniggered maliciously. Calling his henchman, Onyx, to accompany him, he set out to steal the magic flower that held the soul of Venetia in its heart. Unaware of the evil plan that was playing in the mind of Darkwing, Eva and her fairy friends were busy at the celebration. Taking advantage of the situation, Onyx let himself into the garden to steal the magic flower. The tiny guardian spirits of the magical land of Venetia tried to protect the flower, but Onyx flung them aside and took them captive. Flutter, the energetic butterfly, who happened to fly by that way, saw the whole incident and flew back in great speed to inform the fairies of the latest events taking place in Venetia. He told the fairies all about the captive guardian spirits and the ongoing attempt to steal the magic flower. The fairies were shocked to hear about the goings-on in Venetia. Darkwing, to add to the effect, had cast an evil spell over the land of Venetia. As a result of the spell, the butterfly fairies began to lose their magical powers, and the colours of their bright wings began to fade. Eva and the little fairies turned to the enchantress for help. The wise enchantress spoke slowly in a whisper. "There is a way to get the better of Darkwing," said the enchantress. "The only thing that can defeat the Bat King is the wish-granting wand." She then guided them to look for Oliver the Oracle, who knew the whereabouts of the wish-granting wand. Eva and the fairies knew that they were running out of time, and so they hurried to find Oliver, a wise old owl with feathers as white as snow. They searched every tree and bush and cloud, and finally found Oliver snoozing in the shady boughs of a large tree. They could track him thanks to Chestnut, who spotted his snowy feathers shining bright in the moonlight amidst the dark leaves of the shady tree. Oliver, surprised at being roused from his timely slumber, mumbled about the wand's location. "You can find the wand in the Field of Wishes," Oliver mumbled, "and when you wish upon it, the Bat King's evil spell will work no more." As he spoke, a feather from his plumage took off in the breeze. Eva saw it first. "Follow that feather," said Oliver. "It will lead you to your destination." The fairies and Eva hurried after the feather. After a long and arduous run, they reached a field of white dandelions. Eva and the fairies searched the field. Finally, as Eva held the stem of a dandelion, it came alive in her hands. She realized that she had found the wish-granting wand that would break the Bat King's spell. Meanwhile, Darkwing and his bats that had been following the fairies from a distance surrounded the fairies in the field. Darkwing commanded his bats to take Eva captive to prevent his spell from being broken. The bats took hold of Eva and the fairies and flew away with them to the castle of Darkwing. The Bat King wrung the wand away from Eva's hands and turned the fairies into stone. Eva was helpless and wondered what to do to help her friends. Chestnut had meanwhile been forgotten by the evil bats. He scurried over to the Bat King's side and stole the magic wand. Then he rushed back to Eva with the wand. The Bat King spotted Chestnut in the act, but a trifle too late. Just as he raised his sceptre to strike Eva down, Eva quickly raised the wish-granting wand towards Darkwing and spoke to the wand. "I wish to break the Bat King's spell over my friends," she said. As soon as she spoke to the dandelion wand, it started glowing with a magical light. A golden dust wind engulfed Darkwing in its swirl, and the Bat King turned to stone. All the little fairies came back to life. The spell was broken. Eva and the fairies took the magic flower away from Darkwing's palace and rushed back to the Palace of Flowers in Venetia. Enchantress Vanessa was very impressed with little Eva and her bushy pet, Chestnut's acts of bravery. The residents of Venetia thanked Eva for helping them and saving their lives. The enchantress held out her wand and magically produced a butterfly brooch with strange magical powers. She handed the brooch to Eva, who accepted it in amazement. Just then, Eva realized that it was time to get back home. The enchantress opened a magic portal with a wave of her wand to lead Eva and Chestnut back home. Eva said goodbye to her fairy friends, hoping to meet them again someday. As Eva stepped out of the magic portal, she returned to her original size, but the hollow oak tree was never found again.